The text that I'll be explaining today is called The Furthest Everlasting Stream, Gyu Lama, and this is a text in 5 chapters. If I were to explain this slowly in a relaxed manner, it would take 1 or 2 weeks.
But you see, today we have to finish within 8 hours. So, and that also, you see, divided half Tibetan, half translation, isn't it? So, actually, only 4. So, you see, impossible to explain complete 5 chapters. So, I am going to explain only the first part, which is something most important part. 다잖아. 오늘 다디안다 맞아다. 그래서 세션 리레레 차르다가 야 question 디다 written question to collect 시체. 봐. 저 요들이 그냥 저 그래서 요들이 주지 루루스 이 세션 이버도 수배 공데 내만 대셔 딱 전에 두수 가서 그래 그게 되겠다. 아다 두수 잠바시걸이야. 야 말랭게 주체. 두수인다.
And also there will be opportunity for people to ask questions at the end of each session. You should write down if you have questions, you should write them down, and these will be collected, and then at the beginning of the session after that, some of them will be answered.
This one. 다자는야라. 당야라 안다 zamuli digal이야 다 출루만 고지야래 디디 삼을로 년는 유다 딱과한데 셰 네 가서래 네 딱과가 계속 영어는 신체 I think I will explain you see in my own poor English now you see as you know in this how to say world there are quite a number of different religions, but all those major religions each have, you see, a special quality, and as a result, for certain people, for certain religion is more effective. On certain people, you see, and some other religion more, you see, effective. In any case, you see, all religion aiming is how to say, more or less same goal. So now, in this, I think it is a modern period, despite many great material development, despite that, you see, still we human beings need some kind of internal progress or internal peace or spiritual experience. That is something still very important. Under that circumstances, you see, the unity between various different religions is something extremely important. And now today, I am really happy, you see, to explain some kind of, I don't know how to say, explain Buddhist teaching in a Christian church, Christian temple. That is something marvelous, isn't it? It itself, you see, showing that now this period, you see, we have much close understanding and much close, you see, feeling. This is something, very positive significance. So now you see, regarding Buddhism, now you know, you see, Buddha Shakyamuni, although there are some different, how to say, calculations for certain scholar, according certain scholar, since Buddha Shakyamuni come, it's more than 3,000 years. According to some scholars says 2,000, more than 2,800. But generally now we accept more than 2,500 years. 다 된제 산지 좀 된대. 봐. 산지 좀 된대. 아니 야갈 파베 유리야. 아니 전에. 아니 뭐 봐서 산게. 아니 저기 걸어 거 안제니. 된제 단 자반 제베 춘들이야. 아니 년토 대베 로기. 아니 슝다도 잡아이나. 아니 담바 좀 된대. 고스들이야. 심전 다 가사. 다 심전다. 아니 꾸즈멜레 아니 자가 도시다는 영어 좀 상계변 자바디 아니 상계변 자방 삽도 상계변 단 자방 뭐마들 지체 디멘션 아니 상계 파고 체체 도 시비버리.
Then the Buddha Shakyamuni came to this earth with his presence, and then attained enlightenment. Now, and once attaining enlightenment, the state of clear evolvement, then did various enlightening deeds for the benefit of everyone. Now, there are different presentations of the 12 enlightening deeds of the Buddha. According to the presentation in the Hinayana text, the modest-minded vehicle text, the Buddha himself, in the earlier part of his life, was a sentient being. That's a being with limited mind, limited awareness. And then in the latter part of his life, after he achieved enlightenment, then he was an enlightened being, totally clear-minded and fully evolved.
다 택신기 중국 때문에 숨베이나 아니 담방고 봐줘와 디 아니 산젤이야 꾸숨 남샤셰 다 아니 꾸숨만 꾸시 남샤셰네 아니 담바산 산주심된데 초고 두고 되기 말이 다 질두고 두고 나네 다 초고 두고 제 근데 인도자네 아니 두고 당고이니 가서 겨운 거 겨워네 간데는 포와다 겨운 거 겨워네 소원지기 딘 잡아 탐자로 산제금 잡아를 샤버리.
According to the vast-minded vehicle or Mahayana texts, there's the presentation of the three bodies or corpuses, or sometimes four corpuses of an enlightened being. And among these we have the Nirmanakaya or emanation body or corpus of emanations. And within those, then the Buddha Shakyamuni would be included as a supreme emanation. And so throughout many lifetimes in the past, the Buddha was someone who, as an enlightened being, demonstrated over and again the various enlightening deeds.
다 진짜가 루니기 나라네. 다 태바시 중기 시주니 예배 나라네. 다 개디 아니 뭐 택신 사지니까 민나. 다 개디 택신 사지니까 민병어도 답이나. 아니 창조 소든 그 남다고 다 남지기 아니 냐랑 다좀 고방문도 제하게 남지부다게 냐랑 다좀 고방문도 제하지다 아니 산지기 고방데 남다게 타네 뭔도 지기 여나 줄은 민저에 개발해 인도잖아 아니 저불라야 개발을 용 미신받아 양나 저불을 개발을 여버지 개발만 이나 저 두식이 줄라야 아니 민저와지 여거가 강시라 그다음에 생명기 중에 숨쉬베 다 가다시 상상부티아지가 무시 이니지 싫어보다 남 탑식 남 주줄이야 자주 쓰던 거 남장부터 하네 아니 주주시 샤베이나 엔디 가서 그게 리베자 이르잖아요 아니 추도 무시 용금민도스 딘데 이르잖아요 아니 택버신 비슈는 샤샤가 남디디 아니 전된 대기 가다 이니 땜베 이니 슝지 레스 주시 소고들 소고 우마르지 차는 거야.
Now, although there are these various presentations of the manner in which the Buddha Shakyamuni came, there can be an entire discussion as to whether or not there is the valid existence of the Mahayana path as a method for achieving the enlightened state of a Buddha. This is a discussion which is found in the Precious Garland. It's a text by Nagarjuna. And in the discussion concerning this, it's in terms of if there is the enlightened state of a Buddha, and there are only the paths of the arhats, the paths that are for the Shravakas, the listeners, and the Pratyeka Buddhas, the self-evolving beings, then it would be very difficult to establish the attainment of enlightenment based on only the existence of those paths. So one has to think in terms of the fact that if there are various paths which have been indicated, then they must have various results towards which they are leading. So thinking in this manner in terms of the results of the practices that the Buddha himself taught, and likewise the paths that must exist in order to achieve these various results, then one can establish the existence of the Mahayana paths as a way for achieving enlightenment. If one doesn't accept the existence of the Mahayana paths as valid paths, then it's very difficult to accept Buddhahood. That Buddhahood exists.
대단하야 좀 된대기 나 영자가 최 순두자네 안다는 주다 루주나 커버나 신체니 즉 그다음에 데뉴스음을 잠대 간다 즉 탱맹기 즉 흉내 안다는 주 용수타는 여대봤다 디페지 영자식 송야데 디이서리 다 뒤져 즉 라다 다 타고 나와진 뒤져 용식 원리야 아니 대신 취해 송 페지 송을 차샤나 and
there's the presentation of how the Buddha himself came and taught. This is well known in terms of the Hinayana texts, and then in terms of various disciples, that the Buddha initially taught the Hinayana teachings, but then in terms of there being various pure disciples, then he taught the Mahayana. And in terms of, again, various disciples, then for some disciples who were especially pure, then by the force of their prayers, the force of the prior prayers and so forth, then there's the teaching of the Tantrayana vehicle. And there's no necessity that all of these have to necessarily have been taught at the time when the Buddha himself was actually gracing this earth.
유와르나슬이야. 대내 디젤이야. 아니 유구 자고 풍질이야. 아니 시진 일단 바바 스님이 외쳐고 아니 과완자지 이만에. 대내 유 양과자로 써버려야. 아니 가서다 콜로 타먹고 완자지 들이 이만에.
And according to the accounts from the Mahayana text, then the Buddha himself, after he demonstrated his attainment of enlightenment, then set flow 3 rounds of transmission of the preventive measures of the Dharma. And in the first turning of the wheel, or the first round of transmission at the Deer Park in Sarnath, the Buddha taught the 4 noble truths, the facts that are seen as true by the highly realized. And in the second round of transmission at Vulture's Peak, the Buddha taught the perfection of wisdom sutras in terms of the demonstration of the teachings concerning reality. There is no true existence. And then at Vaishali, the Buddha set flow the third or final round of transmission of his teachings. There's the Buddha taught these three set flow these three rounds of transmission, and these were given in turn gradually, one after the other, to Tibet.
Just it. Yeah. Oh, that's better. You could see each other better. These two persons as my mouth, so I have to have closer feeling, isn't it? 다전에 지금에나다 거셔서 다 별이야. 이 산지에 담바 다른 윤두산에 두 것이 차네 담방아들사다 담바 치들사지 니샤블.
So all three rounds of transmission of the teachings were gradually in turn brought to Tibet. And in Tibet, the flourishing of the teachings occurred during two periods. There's the older period, or the ancient period of the Nyingma transmission, and then there's the later or Sarma transmission of the teachings.
Das Sarmalaya, any Sakya, Gaju, Kadam, Sumche.
Now, within the Sarma, or the new transmission period, there's the transmission of the lines of the Sakya, the Kargyu, and the Kadampa.
다 Kadamliya, Kadam, 다 젊으시 모종 공부도 Kadam Nyingma Sashi Sigare, 젊으시 중사리 제레야, in Kadam Sarmaslave.
And within this Kadam tradition, then the period of time before Je Rinpoche, that's Tsongkhapa, is the old Kadam tradition, and the teachings after Je Rinpoche, Je Tsongkhapa, are the Gelugpa or Ganden teachings.
다 나고 산제에 다다 최안의 별이 여대바디 택과 치중 나도 잡아 차상한 샤드샤.
Now, the situation of the teachings of the Buddha in Tibet is one in which there is a complete preservation and presentation of all the teachings of the Buddha, both the modest-minded or Hinayana, the vast-minded or Mahayana, and also the Tantra teachings.
나도 차샤네 유디시자로 여대바 학벌 나 라멜이야 시라도 다르게 침벌.
And within the Tantra teachings, there's the presentation of all four classes of Tantra, and particularly in Tibet, an extremely extensive preservation of the highest class of Tantra, the purelessly integrated deity practice of Anuttara Yoga.
다양 나보산제베 다 철이야 다지 제베 차네 탑기 제방 탑기 차네 다 이제 택버치 중 간다 이제 나도 잡지가 안 샤야도 디체 다양 가수리 그게 다외 차네스 내민도 지 좀대 차네 샤인도 자네 다 다외 차네스 정도 다외 차네 샤요네 아니 좀더 시시해야 지라마 너도 선사가 오버스 시시해야.
In terms of the method side or the behavior side, there's the division within the teachings of the two vehicles, the modest-minded or Hinayana, and the vast-minded and Mahayana or Mahayana. And also from the point of view of the view or outlook in terms of the various schools of tenets, there's a division of 4. These are the schools of tenets of the Vaibhashikas, the Sautrantikas, the Chittamatrans, and the Madhyamakas.
좀 더 시부터 나라래야 전도일이야 태명이 좀더 쓰고도 웃음일이야 태생도 쓰고도.
Within these tenet systems, the first 2, the Vaibhashika and Sautrantika, are within the fold of the Hinayana, whereas the second 2, the Chittamatran and the Madhyamaka, are both Mahayana schools.
따이는 들려야 네 개발지 야 개발이 아래 강사 택신바 그러다 좀더 태명 좀더 개랑해 봐 강사 태명바 좀더 택신 좀더 개랑해 네 개발이 거든.
Now, it is possible for a person themselves to be a Hinayana person, but accept Mahayana tenets, and likewise could be a Mahayana person who accepts Hinayana tenets. It can work both ways. And in Tibet, most of the great major texts of these 4 schools of tenets have been translated.
다 좀더 시부 될라야 낭세게 받쳐 있는잖아요. 야, 시라만 구체.
And within these various schools of tenets, there are many subdivisions.
다 규라면 슝디, 봐. 다 규라면 슝디, 먼저 님의 지 까다다, 다 까다다 순주부터. In
terms of the Nyingma or the ancient tradition teachings, when we look at our text here, Gyulama, the furthest everlasting stream, this does have a connection in terms of the Nyingma teachings of things being pure from the top or the start, and the presentation of the spontaneous accomplishment of everything.
대신도 삶의 공기 거주기 착자신 뭐 마음 무드라 소유도 전에 규라만 잡아요.
And there's also a connection of this furthest everlasting stream teachings with the Kargyu presentation of the great sealing nature of Mahamudra.
대내 배사자배 남자 소유도 전에 남자리야 아니 람지급리야 능순다 데뷔급리야 규숨송기야래 디 규숨기 근시 규규 소유도 전에 규숨기 따와 소유도 규라만 잡아실래요.
And in the Sakya teachings of the paths and its results, there's also a connection here with this furthest everlasting stream teachings in their presentation, in which they present the 3 appearances in terms of the path and the 3 everlasting streams in terms of the result. And specifically within those 3 everlasting streams, the causal everlasting stream of the foundation of everything. In terms of that, there is a connection with this furthest everlasting stream of Gyulama.
대내 기록이 라지 대론이스메베 예시 학던 육승과 소윤도 전에야 규라만 저도 가버려.
And in the Galupa presentation of inseparable voidness and blissful awareness, particularly in terms of the discussion of primordial consciousness, there's also a connection here with this furthest everlasting stream.
이나야 안다디 가사래. 안다 사격건이 시 송윤도 전에 단다디 간다지 다외 남샤 참무 송윤도 전에 나 라메드 저거做些소야. 나 라메드 저거 다 다와차되기야.
And so for all 4 of the Tibetan traditions, the main point towards which this text is in terms of the 4 traditions of within Tibetan Buddhism, the ultimate view of reality is pointing primarily in terms of the discussion of how it's presented in Uttara Yoga Tantra.
다 규라마데 동안이가 나는 더 차대요.
Now, when we speak of this specific text of the furthest everlasting stream within the division between Sutra and Tantra, it falls into the category of a Sutra teaching.
머신건지 캐바소스 숭수면자와 용용구도데 이나야 다데 동안이 수체 너의 댄슈 인도자네 규라메 거네 알라메 투모모이베 루고 따와 던싱게 말이.
Although various learned masters have their own individual ways of explaining this with their own characteristics, nevertheless, when we divide the teachings into the categories of Sutra and Tantra, the only way that this can really be explained is in terms of it being a Sutra teaching.
원한 자와 그래서 인도하는 슬라바이나 그게 저자 가서 14고 토안에 타르친 거 용수 쏴버려. 아니 땅을 퍼야 돼. 나라미 그거는 송용구 요아래 이나야 디 시팅설디 유라면은 띵용도. 디 시팅이야. 신선.
So when we ask what type of relation or connection it can have then with the Tantra, then since the ultimate point, the deepest point towards which the teachings are aiming or are being directed is towards the presentation as found in a Nuttara Yoga Tantra, then we can say that this is the deepest basis from which these teachings are derived and at which they are aiming.
자, 근데 인도 어떤 대단들이 해지 있어요. 대단 도시 영어다. 저와 영다.
This is the way then in which it's related.
다양 별 나눠려야 어다 유무 미주 도시네체 군지 두부버 yap사네 마체데 야 전화 샹동 우마 첨부 써야지.
Now in Tibet through the line of Yumu Mikyu Dorje and then through Dolpupa, there's within the Chonang tradition the view of other voidness or other absence.
대표 관심의 종교 그다음 사제 거주 견den님만 패무치 디가고 중요하래.
And within Tibet, we find that in all four traditions, the Sakya, Kagyu, Nyingma, and Galupa, most of them give refutations and do not accept this position.
야 전한게 따와 시기시니 된데게 타네미 냠도 통보 표시가 된데 이겨버려.
However, there are those who have achieved meditative experiences and realizations and insights based on that view.
맞잖아. 아니, 아까 도와준다. 나한테 유라마디기, 나 유라마디 너 댄슈 가사디.
Now, in terms of the division between the actual enlightening words of the Buddha himself and then the various texts which were written later, the indicative texts, this would be one of the indicative texts that came later. However, if we ask what is the source within the enlightening words of the Buddha from which this derives, it would be the sutra or exposition on the theme of the essential factors for accordant progress. That's the Tathagata Garbha Sutra. And this sutra on an exposition on the theme of the essential factors for accordant progress has been translated into Tibetan. The contents of this sutra are the same as the contents which are found in the Perfection of Wisdom Sutras.
너들 랑가르시베 걸라 좀 된데 니기 디 장동 공시전 인세 좀 된데 니기 송야지 너식도가 디 대신님분 도세 말이야. 디 별은 줄 매베. 디신식의 님분도 디 줄듯이 디 폴로 발바다 주셔 집어체. 다 너들 랑가르시베 걸려야 디반다 딱battemba 딱댄스는 어세야 디 디신님분 도세. 수가다 신다야.
The first one is the essence of the Buddha Nature Sutra, and the second one is similar to its founder, The first one, actually there are two sutras which have similar names here. The first...
Not similar. You see, that means the distinction was that Tatagata Sindaya, Tatagata Garba in a jigre. Distinction when you dos. Just one. She would be Sugata Sindaya, Sugata, the ship. Chick the Tatagata, Chick the Sugata, the Kedwa.
So the second sutra is the Sugata Garba Sutra. And this sutra is referred in the Lankavatara Sutra as being a sutra of which requires interpretation, provisional teaching. And this teaching teaches the Tathagata Garbha as being permanent and independent reality. So this sutra is provisional, but this sutra has not been translated into Tibetan, while the first sutra, the Tathagata Garbha Sutra, was translated in Tibetan. So we have here two sutras.
This one, that is it. That D and D Shasha Do, D Shasha Do, D Shishibe Nimbu Dosadi, Nedum Dorsia.
The first one was a definitive. The first sutra, however, the Tathagata Garbha Sutra itself, the one on the essential factors for achieving enlightenment, it's the Buddha Nature Sutra, is a definitive level sutra.
세상에 자외 저자 디 가사지고 콜로 바르바 실제 바로도 침배 너다 디 디시시베 닝부 너니부도 저자 집어 인도잖아 아니 나라 실제 바로도 침배 너숨베 제라 양자 디시시베 닝부 너숨버디 다 저자 집어 차윤도 아니 대배 경우 소리지 영향이 내가 여봐 인도 디 너경 뻥진 자리 있나
So this text was composed. But if the contents of those two sutras, in terms of the middle turning of the wheel of Dharma, in terms of the perfection of wisdom sutras, and then here the Buddha Nature Sutra, this Tathagata Garbha Sutra, were the same, then since there's a danger of it being repetitious, then because of that, then there's the composing of this text.
This one, yeah. 다 디, 다 그렇지 말죠. 단지비. 다 단지 잡아보디, 겨 잡아보고 있어요, 말에. 다디, 잠잠 말에 타면시, 사 잡아보고 보인로, 미 잡아보고 보인로, 미신. 간다 잡아보고 캐바는 쉽지 좀자. 다 디나네 캐바 커지고 어다 캐바 카지긴 송야 차베이나 유타 남지도 춘이 남지니 더디겐 디숨부디 아니 가쇼레 그게 남지베다 슝조 챤이 터도 태고 숨도 넣어봤다고 있어요.
Now, according to one group of scholars, then among these five texts, the text called a filigree of expositions on vast vehicles themes, that's the Mahayana Sutra, Alankara, and then the differentiating the middle from the extremes, that's the Madhyanta Vibhanga, and the differentiating phenomenon and their actual nature, that's dharma, dharmata, vibhanga. These three texts are presenting the outlook or the view of the Chittamatran schools, and so it doesn't give the ultimate view.
다 뭔도 견다 규라마 니부티 다 규라마 텐주에 루시샤체 다 우마바 되는 텐주에 시샤체 다 뭔도 견게 더도 공부 텐주를 내는 시체.
Whereas the other two of these five, filigree of realizations, that's Abhisamaya Alankara, and our text here, the furthest everlasting stream, or Uttaratantra, these are presenting the ultimate Madhyamaka view, and so specifically this furthest everlasting stream is presenting the Prasangika view, and that also is what is directly... And that would also then be the deepest intention of the filigree of realizations, the Abhisamaya Alankara as well.
다양 개바 카지게 연소면이나 아니 규라마다 최대 춘이 남진이부터 아니 공부 직전에 대신도대 세배 단주 인송대 신도대 세배 명하게 단주 인스 어디니 타마르 참방 공부 송대 바로도 그게 영자로 매등했지 그다음 때도 배셔버지 치 제미지버 침be 때내 셰베 인스를 송도
according to another group of interpreters, they say that of interpretation, their presentation is that the two texts, the furthest everlasting stream, the Uttaratantra, and also this differentiating phenomenon and their actual nature, the Dharma, Dharmata, Vibhanga, that these two texts go together as having the same intention, and that these are extremely profound and subtle texts, and therefore they were not initially taught in a very widespread and well-known manner, but rather were hidden as treasure texts, and then later were recovered and made widespread by Maitripa.
Ah, yeah. This one. That any shungdi, any changing gun, or a pearlia, a changing gun, yebe tane, ne shusati, gang decisions in the Kunua, decisions in the
So this text came through its various transmissions into Tibet, and I myself have received the transmission of this text from Gen Rinzin Demba Lama from Kunu.
That's enough. That tension dig Tanlia, Takwachum Gulam and Tenju Shupsos.
The name of this text is a composition to indicate a vast vehicle of the mind, the furthest everlasting stream.
Gyagargado, Mahayana, Sutra, Tantra, Shastra, Purgado, Takwachum Gulam and Tenju. That Tenju Tan Gagada Purgani would teach.
It starts with the presentation of the name in the Indian language, Mahayana Uttaratantra Shastra, and then in the Tibetan language, Tekpa Chembo Gyu Lame Denju, which in English is a composition to indicate a vast vehicle of the mind, the furthest everlasting stream.
That Jira, Denju Tanlia, Jajakwana Takwada. Yaji Bena did the Washington, that Jajakwana Takwa sort of Takwa Yisare. That Gadon was Lama. Shologa Tangiwana Takwada. Langara Sheba Doslamna, Nagypona Takwada. Razanam Nishiba Doslavaina, Shuabukona Takwada. What the Negata, Tanju Chandolum and Madama will be.
The names of sutras can be ascribed, or expositions on themes can be ascribed in many different ways. Here the name is ascribed in terms of the actual contents of the teaching, so the furthest everlasting stream indicates what it was being discussed in the text, whereas other texts like the 8,000 verse Prajnaparamita text is given its name in accordance to the number of verses within that text, whereas other texts such as the Lankavatara, that text is given its name in terms of the actual place where the text was delivered, and then there are other texts such as the text requested by the maiden Ratna, in which the name is given in terms of the person who requested the teaching.
다전에 단디기 택바 전부 규라면 단주선 택바선이 드레베 던지는 택바 드레베 던지 택바 달라 디 로스lam나 람르코 디 로스lam나 제불코
So to go through each word of the text, of the title of the text, it starts with the word tekpa, which is a vehicle of the mind, and a vehicle of the mind is something which goes somewhere, so it speaks in terms of both a path of mind that is going somewhere, and likewise a vehicle of mind that is the actual result attained.
첨보선에다 미버차와도 주버차와도 예시차와도 지 가려지 준주차와도 쏨바차와서 내게다 차와 되는 지관에 아니 첨보다 민기 따용아래 근데 인도자네 다 대버 첨보스 가다 쪼치셔 삼바자차 대왕이 아니 저자차 대왕이 저자차 용구야래 대차네 첨보스다.
It is a vast vehicle of the mind, or Mahayana, from the point of view of having vast deep awareness, vast intention or heart, vast endeavors, and so forth. There are 7 points from which it is vast, and primary among all of these is having a very vast intention. And based on having a vast intention, then there are vast actions that one engages in terms of it.
규사한테 규사한테 균지통이 말해. 균이 균시 샤워 차스니 규사한테 균지통. 뭐지 제일니 영대버지 규.
The next word in the title is an everlasting stream, and an everlasting stream is a continuity, something which continues from past moments to present and on to future moments. So it's a stream of continuity.
첨어의 제배 심기 규 정지 라 첨어의 제배 심기 규 정지 등용의 진도니 규 시행의 독자입니다. 봐. 단주들이야.
And since it's a text which is explaining how to purify away the stains from the everlasting stream of one's own mind stream, then this is how it's to be understood in terms of it being the title.
네 너도 지금부터 근데 첨어의 제배 심기 규 정지 등배 도인도자네 규시 디나네 아니 라메게도 치마라 주고 인도자네 규치마스 시진 숨배 제일 숨배 도진도자네 그다 규세대야디 아니 첨어의 제배 심기 추니 정을 제배 다 가서래 다 정치를 출단바 인도자네 규치 시진의 치송바 인도자네 규치마스 규치마 규라마 대대를 대신 시에 닝부 돈 규라마 티 가소래 다디 땅을 파비하기 단주 인도자네 규라마 단주스 샤소아.
So it's a text which indicates the everlasting stream in terms of what one gets down to when one has purified away the various stains. And likewise, it is the furthest or later in terms of it's the later one which has been taught after the second round of transmission of the preventive measures in terms of the perfection of wisdom sutras. So it comes after that, and being after, then it's furthest. It goes beyond that. And since it is based on the sutra of the essential factors for accordant progress, that's the Buddha Nature Sutra, and it is a composition to indicate what was meant in that sutra. Therefore, it's called a composition to indicate a vast vehicle of the mind, the furthest everlasting stream. Then it starts, I prostrate to all the clear evolved and the spiritual heroes expanding their heart. This is the prostration made in the beginning by the translators.
Sanya the Shusabal Dodi Casa Chisam Dodi Condoina, Dodi Denu Condoina, inside the Shusabal Chasa Losano. Any Canada, net him Dodi. Ocheni, Takadachi, Denus Sosu, the Kashuri, Jeje name to that, Descend Dead Tumbe, any Dusacha to Sony, Cheje Getche, two chisung ever mentioned the Sony.
The prostration, or which is given in the beginning by the translators, follows a custom which was made in Tibet, which was that according to which of the three baskets of teachings, the Tripitaka, that the text itself belonged to, then the prostration or salutation, salutatory verse at the beginning was made in accordance with that. So here, the prostration is to the Buddhas and the Bodhisattvas, the clear evolved and the expanding hearted ones, and that indicates that this text belongs to the basket of sutra teachings.
Kind of dual tabji machine, Nobel Caremo. Sabensa, that did have to say. That dilemma, that danger, Lu Dordeng Survey, that direction. Sanje Chozo, Kamda Changju Tang, Yuan Sanje Chile Tamate, danger Gundi Lun Dordon Dojin in Nedun Dagos, Dorjine Duns, Dorjine Duns, Chene, Dadalaya, Sanje Chu, Gindun, Sumche. Any Chimo the Jeb simply chini, Yana Chimo the Jabams, Yana Ben Casadi, Gunde Pajamelam, and the Chimo the Jabamins, that Chimo means Chimo Bungu into Chimo Bungu into Zane, that did do want the Chavina, Chimo Mabam simply chini, right? Chimo Mabam simply chini, come dishing in Bushan, that did Diche, Shivache. Then 그다음에 뒤땡기베 주마 용수 장대 다베 내가 그 청주 될 때문에 아니 그래서 dob서 연단다 진능민 dob서 제외 연대 숨주 소니 참별로 소배 그래 능민지 연대 숨주 소니 전 연단 주주 접시 대내 산지게 칠레 와다 뒤등부림 다시 있네 뒨스.
The first verse gives the a brief presentation of the contents of the text. Says, to the clear evolved ones, preventive measures, community and the source, also purified growth, the qualities, and finally enlightening influence of the clear evolved. The body of all indicative compositions, when gathered in brief, is these 7 points that are diamond strong. So the text is presenting 7 diamond strong points. First, it's discussing the clear evolved ones, or Buddhas, then the preventive measures, or Dharma, the community, which is the Sangha, and then the source is referring to the Buddha nature. The Buddha nature, or the source for clear evolvement, is referring to the actual nature and so forth when it is covered with stains. In other words, at the time when the various stains which are obscuring these sources or essential factors have not been abandoned, have not been gotten rid of. Then the state in which they have been gotten rid of or purified away is called the state of purified growth, or bodhi. This is referring to enlightenment. Then the next point are the qualities, which are corrections of inadequacy, and these are the qualities of that state of enlightenment, referring to the 32 qualities which are qualities of being parted. And these are such as the qualities of the 10 powers of the mind and so forth. So these are parted qualities. And likewise, there are the 32 ripened qualities, such as the features of the enlightening body of a Buddha. Then the final point of the 7 is the enlightening influence or Buddha activity of that state of enlightenment.
tensenga da doji ni da doji ne so da de de kan da jaja da ga doji dan zhao dun bu ti den be din dan ma din ne be dan ju yin zan ne doji ne es ni si duo da de ne ga him du jin da doji ni ni da go da de de bu kan da ji ga shu le jaja ga shu le da jaja ne Dittumbutti, there in a Lugnana, any Christian gods lavina, Sanje, Che, Gindun, Kam Chen, did come them a lunaria, Chen Lutan Winal Shed. Then a Changju, Liu Sut Shed, Yanden Liu Sut Shed, or Denacare, Chile Liu Sut Shed, the Lungabati, Penjable Lius in Lungabatusi.
As for how these 7 diamond-strong points, which are the contents of this text, are arranged into its 5 chapters, the first 4 of these, the points about the clear evolved ones, or the Buddhas, the preventive measures, or Dharma, the community, or Sangha, and the source, which is the Buddha nature, these 4 are presented in the first chapter, which deals with the source. And then the next point, the 5th, the state of purified growth of enlightenment, is presented in the second chapter. Then the qualities of that state are presented in the 3rd chapter. The 4th chapter deals with the 7th of these points, the enlightening influence, and then the 5th chapter discusses the benefits or advantages of this text. Of all 7 points which are discussed in this text, the root or most basic and fundamental point discussed is this point about the source or Buddha nature.
당or dur ba changju ji ngor durbe dur ene tela tembe yanden di thone ene shenji kam ene se ene kambe george agi tle chen o dos chen ka da de tamjalo kam ge den shen do.
The way that we can understand this is that this source, which are the essential factors allowing us to achieve enlightenment, allowing us to make accordant progress to that state, is something which is covered with various stains. It's something which needs to be purified. And so to reach the state in which all the stains are purified away from that, in other words, to reach the state of enlightenment or total purification and growth, we need to rely on the first 3 of these points, the Buddhas, the Dharma, and the Sangha, that is those who have already purified away the stains from their source, so that we ourselves then can achieve the 5th point, that state of purified growth ourselves. Then, on the basis of that, we'll have all the various enlightening qualities, which are corrections of inadequacy, based on having purified away the stains from the source within us, and then having achieved that state with all its qualities, then we'll be able to exert an enlightening influence on others in terms of being able to awaken the sources within them, which will allow them to purify away the stains from their sources as well.
다 슝들바 카로간, 봐. 슝디들야 카간제. 카간제. 지카시게 셰시게바이나.
So to complete to fill out and complete the meaning of what is intended in this text, there are a few words which can be added.
다 나바 산제베 최기 닝든디 가사 닝든디 쟈바다 다와니체 쟈바 가르슬라는 사와메지버체 쟈바 가르슬라는 땡중 다와체
The essence of the teachings of the Buddha are in terms of the behavior and the view or outlook, and the main point of the behavior, the conduct that one follows, is non-violence, and the main point of the outlook or the view is in terms of dependent arising.
쟈바 차와 메시바스 안 되나? 야 가쇼를 그게 차마의 쟈바이나 샹라 미츠와 잡체 디 차와메베 냠 서로 담이나 그다음에 디 차와메베 털도도 가르쳐서는 샹라 미츠와 잡마이마 샹라야 판다데 샹지 턴주야.
When we look at the first of these, the point of the behavior in Buddhism, in terms of non-violence, or not causing harm, then on the surface level, that's not to actually cause harm to any other being. But on a deeper level, not only is it referring to not causing any harm, but if possible, to be able to try to benefit or help others.
아니 나란조 다다 균제 가서 그랬지 균제 짠메고 봐 제샤 겸메고 봐라 랑랑기 대화 중은 가와 동해 중은 메가와 지고 균제 뒤타는 용이야.
And it's not necessary to go through various complicated lines of reasoning for this, but rather it's just on the basis of the fact that we wish to be happy and not to have any problems or suffering, and so does everyone else.
다 대다 대화 영향을 전달라. 다 대화 영향다 동해만 영향 전달이야. 차와 미시버디 최고야게 내가 가르에서 라바이나 인다월 두고 있는데. 죄송해요.
So the ultimate point then of not causing, of wishing to be happy ourselves and wishing to get rid of suffering, and on the basis of that following a course of non-violence.
No. I think you see, because everyone wants happiness, do not want suffering. On that basis, non-violence is, you see, the key point, right? That 대화 영향당 now why right that reason right 동해 마용야다 대화 영향을 전달을 차와 미시버 최고야게 중생 가르에서라스.
So what is the reason for non-violence in order to bring about happiness and to eliminate suffering? And that is because of the view of dependent arising.
민두베 동해디 귤었다며 데베 디기디 귤었다며 근데 인도장에 귤다 깽게 데베 토안에 데루 연구해봐 인도장에 아니 귤 차와 담배 토안에 아니 데부 디기여야지 데부 동해래 타외 디기여야지 신성아.
So the happiness that we wish to achieve is something which is based on causes or reasons, and the suffering which we wish to get rid of is likewise something which arises because of causes. So both suffering or unhappiness and happiness, which we wish to achieve, both of these are based on causes and circumstances. Therefore, if we wish to achieve various results, we have to work in terms of dependent arising, in terms of their causes.
다 땡중 샤윤도 자네 가소래 라랑기 라 대화도 동해서야데 라랑기 두던 깬삼래 중어 인기 지된 거봐 메스요.
So when we speak about the fact that happiness and suffering both come about merely because of their own specific causes and circumstances, this is the presentation that we have here in Buddhism of the Creator of the world.
다 근데 땡중대 고알이야. 다 가소래 고알 차라 먹고 준 거야.
There are various levels of understanding, subtle and rough, of dependent arising.
안다스야게 다 데부디두디 라랑기 두인삼라 때네 영어레신 균제 땡징인데 땡중 고아직세.
One level of understanding it is in terms of the happiness that we wish to achieve and the unhappiness that we wish to get rid of, that all of these arise dependently on their respective causes and circumstances. And when you discuss this in a more extensive form, that would involve the 12 links of dependent arising.
다 대달 다 아니 두제기 쳐 귤을 땡땡에 두진을 라래땡에 진짜게 다 두제기 쳐지 간다지 라랑기 아니 두이 샤완래 줘다 두이 완래 줘 마도 귤을 마도 봐 라왕고 거네 두야 매대버지 차대바 인도잖아 다 간다 깨를 떠윤도 라왕고 거네 두야 매버리 다 대리버의 파도 자체로 땅인도 자네 두머시기 쳐도 돼야 계시기 두든 뒤시기 줄어도 땡기요 말이지 이나야 라랑이 차샤를 떠네 아니 중고야 다 지 간다시 라랑이 덕실을 땡네 중고야 진짜시 인도 자네 다 간다 뒤차 마셔기劝디 탐자로 떠배고는 두덕시다 차대요.
Another level of understanding it is in terms of when we speak about conditioned phenomenon or affected phenomenon. These are phenomenon which arise affected by or in dependence or dependent upon their own respective causes and circumstances. So in this sense, all affected or conditioned phenomenon arise dependently from causes and circumstances. Now this can be extended to cover those phenomenon which are unaffected by causes and circumstances or unconditioned phenomenon. Although they do not arise dependent upon causes and circumstances, nevertheless their existence is something which does depend upon their own parts. It is something which does depend upon having such things as a basis for imputation or designation. And so these phenomenon as well arise dependent on other things. So this level of understanding of dependent arising is in terms of both affected and unaffected phenomenon, or conditioned and unconditioned phenomenon. Both of these are things which depend on other things, that none of these are things which exist independently from their own side, independent of either causes and circumstances or independent of parts and bases for labeling.
대달 나서 미기 때문에 있잖아요. 다 규다 갱기 자와티도 스tö네 중고야지. 다 무엇을 통토야 지여베 통토야 김전 리턴도 서서 다자 담배이나. 규다 갱다 근데 그 간다야니 지 가소를 그게 규진 현실이야. 라마레바 라왕고 거네. 다 좀 매대버지. 아니 다 제윤도잖아요. 지 고토야시도가.
And so when we examine and see things, observe things with our own eyes, that things arise because of causes and circumstances, then this is something which convinces us that things do not arise under their own power. And so based on seeing the dependent arising of things, then we can understand the lack of things existing inherently, independently from their own side, under their own power.
다 대다 가사 라랑기 라치 다 떠서 텔라 떠네 아니 떠서 텔라 떠베 거네 가셔다 주스심 이야다 떠서 스네미도 댄서 디jen지 왕기 요 나서 용주 여대 봐 팬은 나서 영야 여대 봐디 댄지 밀로와 사티 바래 딘제 댄지 밀로와 다베 팬은 나서 对呗，王个用对呗，人心相信印度站呢，马对呗，让呗，当的人心当把人散的吧嘞，是但也这个人心当把人散的去，人心当把的想了，人心当把台湾印度站呢，想了对吧的切台湾嘞，想了对吧的切台湾印度站呢，究竟的王个有那种样的，你心都台湾吧嘞。
So we look at the fact of things being dependent arisings, that things arise dependent upon causes and circumstances, and based on that, this is the foundation from which various effects such as benefit and harm come about, namely based on their various causes and circumstances. This is something which leads us to how dependent arising is something which is non-fallacious, that it always is the case in terms of benefit and harm comes from appropriate causes and circumstances. Now, when we are convinced of how this law of dependent arising, that things arise from causes and circumstances and so on, is something which is non-fallacious, which is never incorrect, which is never wrong, that naturally leads us to more conviction in the view that things lack inherent existence, that things lack or are void of existing inherently under their own power, independent of rising dependently on causes and circumstances. So the two understandings, the one of dependent arising being non-fallacious, is something which supports or gives us more conviction in the fact that things arise, that things do not exist independently under their own power or inherently from their own side. And likewise, when we understand that things are devoid of existing inherently from their own side, that gives us more conviction in how do they exist. They exist in terms of being dependent arisings. So these are the two true facts. The two levels, the two truths.
제부티 돈로 인도자네 아니 동행 가고 고바테 대 인도자네 고바테 뭔도 제약이 탑삼 람지 템바티 테리.
If we expand from the two truths, then we get the four truths, the four noble truths, in terms of true problems or sufferings and true causes for all of them. Because these are the first two truths, and this we can see is in terms of this whole idea of dependent arising, that since it is fitting and appropriate that things come about from causes and circumstances, therefore when we present what are true problems that face everyone, or true sufferings, then these arise from their true causes for them. Then likewise, in terms of dependent arising, if we wish to achieve a true stopping or a true cessation of these sufferings, then it's necessary to follow a cause for that, or true paths of the mind. So the second two truths as well, the true facts of the path and the true stoppings or cessations likewise follow in terms of this whole process of cause and effect or dependent arising.
Tang Guangding Zhuya, Rang Guangding Zhuya, Cha Jing Ne, and the level Nanshingi. Renshin Maba said, Renshin Maba Dongbani said, the mother of Jisha. Nine, some generation, Vesawa, Steny, Sundea. Any other Shundi Kalina? Gasade. Jisan Jimelada. Timon Lubur Wani Tanzon. Shundi Kala, Timon Lubur Wani Tan, Yanda Renshin, Yin, Chils and Love Diag, that Timon Lubur Waimba, that Jumzen Dini Dita, Sundikatane, and Gordon Tutorial.
Now, these true cessations or true stoppings are something which can be established in terms of the presentation of voidness of inherent existence or the total absence of true inherent existence. That's one side, but then it can also be explained in terms of the clear light nature of the mind. And this is what is presented or discussed in this text. It presents it from that point of view, because in this text it talks about how the stains which cover the mind, or the nature of the mind, are something which is fleeting, while the mind itself is something which is complete with all qualities. So on the basis of that, it establishes the true cessations or true stoppings of suffering.
Any same thing, Chima, Nyambu Topi, Chima never Renesh, Jumche, any Chimapa, Chima Pangli, Chima Pangli, you do Zane, then there any Casade, Chisanada. Chima never chick, that had a girl never chick, most of the born Chiagi, Nyambo landing game to Zane, teacher Kunjosiari.
So the text is discussing then how to eliminate or get rid of or purify these various stains which are obscuring the nature of the mind in order to get to a state of true cessation or true stopping of them. And this is done in terms of applying various opponents. And so what is the actual opponent is going to be the application of true paths of the mind, the fourth truth, true paths. And this, as presented here in the text, would be then the preventive measures, or the Dharma. These are the true paths of the mind.
Oh, Daganansingi, Nyambu Te Topi, Bangsa Bangbe, Chawajarba, Bangsa Bangbe, Chawa, Gordon, Te, any Gogwe Tempe Chukujoy. And by applying these true paths of the mind, these preventive measures, then one achieves a state in which there is a parting or an absence of the things that we wanted to get rid of. You wanted to stop certain things, and that state in which what we wanted to stop is actually stopped. That state of being parted from these things that we wanted to get rid of is called a true stopping or a true cessation. It's the state in which we have gotten rid of what we wanted to get rid of. So this state in which we have achieved a true stopping, this true stopping is the actual Dharma jewel, or the actual gem of preventive measures. And anyone who has such a state on their mind stream would be an actual member of the community or Sangha jewel. Tati Tadung Lam Kumshin Lia, Banja Bungi Chene, Lamji Deba Saba Chiki, Di Chang, the Gordon Saba Chiki, Yang Lamden Saba, Yang Gordon Top 2 Senia, Yada Shin, Bungi Chin, Tamajan Tadalo, Pugge Bonji, Casore Pugge, Lam Turdu, you want to Chene, and it did 2 kg Nival Banja Tada Bambe, Chawato Zane, Ranju Neji Kansate, and Sanja Gujorish.
And so anyone who has these type of true stoppings, who have gotten rid of these things to be gotten rid of on their mind stream, those are a member of the intent community or the Sangha. And so by gradually applying true paths of the mind, which bring about true stoppings, then we work in turn applying more paths of the mind and achieving more stoppings, getting rid of more and more things that we wish to get rid of, until ultimately we get rid of everything that needs to be gotten rid of, or we've abandoned everything to be abandoned. And then the second moment, once we have actually achieved that state, then someone who has gotten rid of everything to be gotten rid of is an actual Buddha, someone who is totally cleared out or clear-minded and fully evolved. So we need to be able to establish in this way then the three jewels of the Buddha, Dharma, and Sangha based on the four truths.
다 대다 군조 숨분나네 다이니 다다 다 가서를 그게 강사 현주기 강사 현지 대대로 고방문도 제네 다다 산제 최긴도 강사 현지 뒤니 여대바탈라 아니 만 그게 규제세야 접수들어서다 유 다다 가란조 마음발이야 런규라 아니 가서다 런규게 집어타다로 세월 진행이 두루 차용인도 자네 규진기 치의 개로 차용인도 자네 근데 달라 규제스제 봐 대대를 다 가소래 문제니 당문지스네미도 간다 대가는 신치기 나란주 규리야 림베기 최근조 규리기 런이 긴두근조도 규 림베 런이 사제 파고를 규줘야 관에 다 간다지 마음바를 랑게 토야지 지도와 최 긴두 상계 선여되바 뒤에달라 랑기 문도 치야지 인바 인도자네 아니 랑가 탑자 인도자네 달라야 대접스도.
Now when we take safe direction or refuge from these three gems or three jewels, the clear evolved ones, the Buddhas, the preventive measures, or the Dharma, and the intent community, or the Sangha, we can take safe direction, safe and sound direction from them in terms of their existence in the mind streams of others other than us. And so when we look at Buddhas, who are other than us, the Dharma jewels and the Sangha jewels in mind streams other than our own, and this will then act as a cause for us to actually go in that direction, in that safe direction of them. And so this is known as the taking of safe direction in terms of the causes for them. Sources of direction taken from the cause, that act as a cause for us to attain them ourselves. So there are these sources of direction or safe direction which will act as a cause for us to attain them ourselves in terms of taking our direction from others, but then also there's the taking of direction or safe direction in terms of the future results which we ourselves wish to achieve. And so we look in terms of the attainment of the Dharma and the Sangha and the Buddha. In other words, we ourselves will achieve the attainment that we ourselves will have in the future of these preventive measures, this jewel of preventive measures, the attainment that we ourselves will have in terms of being a member of this intent community, the ultimate attainment that we ourselves will have in the future of being a fully enlightened Buddha. And when we take our safe direction or refuge in terms of these attainments or results which we ourselves will achieve in the future, that's called a resultant refuge, or taking our direction from the future results that we ourselves will achieve. So there are these two types of taking of safe direction or taking of refuge. There's the taking of refuge in terms, or taking our source in the gems that exist in others, which act as a cause for us to achieve them ourselves. And then there's the taking of refuge in terms of the direction that we can derive from the results that we ourselves will attain on our own mind stream in the future.
I think 2 hours go like this. I think too long. Do you feel too long? All right. Originally 2 hours, then 20 minutes break. Then another about 2 hours. All right? All right. 다 무슨 의미니? 그래서 다 초송 그 나네, 봐. 초송 그 나네. 아니 산제 대접 덤바 보스라 그래. 다 거대부터 샤베이나 산제 대접 덤바 부체니 엄지다 멤버도 다 인샤베래. 멤버 기겐도 다. 다 멤버도 다 스름지.
Now, when we speak of these three gems, these three sources of safe direction, the main one of these are the Buddhas, the clear evolved ones themselves, and they are likened to being like a doctor. Whereas the actual safe direction that we can derive is from the preventive measures or the Dharma itself. And that is similar to medicine.
당 무엇을 나서 타고를 생기지 맨디기 지겨워. 디는 신체니 런규기 다 동해 쭉 다다 동해 시월 지야래. 동해 시야데 동해기 쭉 각을 거네. 다 동해 시월 지야데 무엇을 최기 사용인도 자네. 다데 만들다 왔어.
If we wish to be cured from a sickness, then the actual thing that we must rely on is to take medicine as some type of preventive measure, so to get rid of the disease. So likewise here, in terms of the whole process of getting rid of all our problems and all our sufferings altogether, likewise the thing that we need to take to get rid of it completely is the preventive measures themselves, the Dharma. So it is in this way that the Dharma, or the preventive measures, are things that will give us our actual source of direction, because they are the things which, like medicine, will actually cure us or help us to get rid of all our problems and suffering. So in this way, the Dharma are the preventive measures which, like medicine, will be the actual refuge or the actual thing which will allow us to get rid of our problems. And the gem of the Sangha, this is the intent community, the community intent on this goal, are the helpers along this way, and so they are similar to nurses.
대인아야다 맨 양우지게라 용알이야 매바 캐바지고 못되니 아니 나서 대다 딱딱하게 잠바지 간다 음지 딱셔신 뒤에 제수되니 맨 사고가 있는잖아 매바들 덤바디 구야래 디니상 미쳐봐 아니 내요 다 추든시다 구여바 있는잖아 아니 대단다 긴dun체네 와다 런이 동해에 저와라 떼숨 고야가 좀제 디샤베.
Now, if we are going to take some medicine in order to get cured of some sickness or disease, it's necessary that we have relied beforehand on an actual competent doctor to have prescribed this medicine, a doctor who would have examined us correctly and would have prescribed the actual medicine which suits the sickness. So, and likewise, we need to rely also on nurses and others which are going to help us in the process of getting cured from our sickness. So in this way, the three gems are similar to that, because the Dharma is the preventive measures that we actually take to be cured of our problems. The Buddha, the clear evolved ones, are the ones that prescribe these preventive measures that we need to take, and the community of the Sangha are those who help us during the process of taking these preventive measures, or the Dharma, in order to get cured of all our problems.
다당 안 하도록 차시하나? 아니, 상제 좀 된데 무엇도 안 하도 현재 요 말인데 다 디기 집 가서 우리 막 처부 서로 셴. 다 디기 막 가다 연이 가서 튀거장에 막 처부 서로지. 다 라내야 내루 땡행기 라마 차되게 하네.
And although we are no longer living present at the time when the Buddha Shakyamuni himself is present on this earth. We need to have some substitute who will act as a representative for the Buddha Shakyamuni, and so in this sense it is important for us to have a spiritual teacher who will actually act as a substitute for the Buddha in prescribing these preventive measures.
Tendeshi tata ngaranzu gyuli ya ngosu yong tuki ya mare maungbala ki gyuli ma da anda namsa lani ketu ya ya mare ti mengshi tsuer de kare slavna tata ne ene kato da semli ya sobshu jaya tang gozu ku ya re ngan tu slam dra.
And so when we look at these preventive measures and so forth, the Dharma, these are things which others have taken and have achieved their attainment by means of them in terms of the Buddhas themselves. And so we ourselves need to do the same as they have done, and likewise take these preventive measures ourselves and work on our minds in order to actually cure ourselves and get rid of all our problems. And so when we take safe direction in terms of following these preventive measures, we do this all the way to our attainment of enlightenment. And so if we describe or explain what actually this word Dharma means in an easy to understand way, if we try to understand what these preventive measures or Dharma is talking about, it perhaps will be a little bit easier to understand in terms of the whole process of ridding ourselves of various faults or mistakes. As I mentioned the other day, that someone who follows the Dharma, someone who takes these preventive measures, is someone who is working with strong effort and energy to try to overcome the various faults on their own mind streams.
Defensive line of defensive nature or offensive nature nisha.
And so within these preventive measures, there are both offensive and defensive measures that can be taken. So first we'll discuss the defensive measures. The thing that we first have to do is to identify who or what is the adversary that we want to overcome, and the adversary that we want to overcome, or the enemy, is the disturbing attitudes or klesha. So what are these examples of some of these disturbing attitudes? They would be pride, infatuated attachment, jealousy, and so on. Anger. These are our enemies.
Defensive line.
And before we can actually strike out offensively at them to get rid of them, first we have to set up a line of defense within ourselves. And what is that referring to? That's referring to ethical self-discipline. And so even though we might have these disturbing attitudes present in our minds, nevertheless we have to prevent them from spilling over into the actual actions of our body or our speech. And so we have to be able to hold our own or stand strongly ourselves in terms of restraining or keeping back from having these disturbing attitudes, to have ourselves not let these disturbing attitudes cause us to act or to speak in a disturbing manner. So this refers to the refraining from the 10 destructive actions or non-virtuous actions, and this is the basic foundation, and all of you are undoubtedly aware of this.
탑시 근데 시작하려면 아니 시내주에 탈이야 아니 가서를 그게 다 돈이도 ပဲ싫어 아니 시내 그 좌도 제배 관에 가다이니 아니 소소도 ပဲ싫어 그 시야도지 참을 루스 신장에 대회스베 항동 주제 지도도 항동 주니 된대기 신라송도 그 검디토안에 아니 발그치야.
Once we can hold our own against the disturbing attitudes so that we don't come under their power, that they cause us to act or to speak in a destructive manner, once we can hold our own against them in terms of having ethical self-discipline, then we are in a position in which we can now launch the offensive attack against them. And the way that we launch this offensive attack is in terms of using the methods of, first of all, gaining a serenely stilled and settled state of mind, that's shine or shamatha, in which we can concentrate totally in complete absorption and concentration. Then, once we have this serenely stilled and settled state of mind, then we can we need to develop an exceptionally perceptive state of mind, or vipassana, or tlatong in Tibetan, in which we have this exceptionally perceptive awareness of reality, of voidness. And so in this combined state in which our mind is both serenely stilled and exceptionally perceptive, we'll be able to actually have all the proper offensive weapons to be able to get rid of these disturbing attitudes and the problems that they cause us.
맞아, 당아서 태식이다. 지금 녀몽이 녀부 땡당리야, 녀부직다, 레다 녀부 땡당리야. 그러나 공주의 녀부라 참바검이야. 참바검이야.
There are temporary opponent forces that we can employ in this battle, and so temporarily, as an opponent against anger, we can apply love and tolerance.
되는 대샤가 녀볼라 미두고검이야. 미다고검이야. 미다베런시검이야. 이니 동해베런시검이야. 된지도.
And as an opponent to our infatuated attachment, we meditate or build up the habit of seeing things in terms of their ugliness to overcome our infatuation with which we become very attached to them. We likewise think in terms of how things are impermanent, that nothing remains static, that nothing has a true identity, that all things involve problems and suffering and so forth, and this helps us to overcome our infatuations and attachments.
나게 녀볼이야 저 소수 신도야 봐. 아니 신야 카오여 되게 녀도 사고 저 삼다는 나게 녀보셔요. 소수 토나여사, right? Some certain subject which you want to know, meantime very difficult, very complicated, and 망서 삼도나 나게 잘.
So to overcome one's pride and arrogance, you think about various subjects or topics which you want to know but which you do not yet know, and in this way this lessens your pride of feeling that you know everything already.
되네 심 이해는 녀볼이야 롱종을 또 때대야죠. 롱종 장야서 드리식도.
And as an opponent to having a great deal of mental wandering, which our mind wanders all over the place.
차도 인연벌이야 제수이라는 공기는 차도 인연 용도야.
And as for an opponent to jealousy, if we meditate on rejoicing in the happiness of others, that will act as an opponent to jealousy.
대도 된다게 태색 인연부 된다니까.
Like this, we have various temporary opponent forces that we can apply.
근데 자와 offensive 지하들이야 묘모디 탐자로 자와 댄징기 일단 시딘체니 용바 인도잖아요. 댄징기 인연부터 묘모 탐자기 인연부를 두고야 돼.
But to get to the deepest offensive weapon that we want to use, we need to see that all these various disturbing attitudes that we have come about because of our grasping for things to exist in a true and unimputed manner. So this grasping for true existence is what is the root causing all our various disturbing attitudes, and so the really deepest type of offensive weapon that we need to apply is the understanding of reality with which we will overcome our grasping for things to exist in a true manner, which they do not do.
나 다시 들려주면 되게 근데 weapon 되기는 fuel처럼 고소남 사고도 와.
And as for what the fuel is, for these offensive weapons, it's the positive potential or merit that we've built up from positive actions.
아니 fuel이라고 하면은 퍼스칭 사대도 와. 근데 이제 그 fuel 다른 것도 더 좋아하고 디서디 선함 그제 숙체서디 그 숙체도 도야래.
And if you don't have very much fuel in your rocket, then the rocket is going to fall down very quickly. So since we want our offensive weapons to be able to travel very far, then we need to have a great deal of fuel in terms of a great store of positive potential or merit.
다 선함 사야 돼. 자고 구문을 안 해.
And what is the root for building up these positive potentials? The root of it all is our motivation.
어다 군루 지금 런이 지구 타바토야게 체도 쌈니. 근데 그 군루 스베지 제바이나 그 달라빠게 누버지 알아. 다란 지구 체도 삼바마 뭐 타입에 심지어 탐지기 체도 있는 삼다이나 군루 디슈기 에는 선함 타입 차이야.
If the motivation is just to attain liberation or freedom from our problems ourselves, then the fuel will only have that much potency or ability to go that far. Whereas if our motivation is to achieve the full enlightened state of a Buddha, to become totally clear-minded and fully evolved ourselves, in order to be able to benefit infinite limited beings, then our fuel is going to have that much more power. It will have that power which is infinite, similar to the motivation being so infinite.
우마를 지타는 데 소리. 심지어 타다게 체도 미고이는 심지어는 장이야 말이. 박도 매버 차대야래. 심지어 박도 매버 디디 체도 미니. 근데 박도 매버 연당하게 산제 전도년의 용어인도 자네. 다 손은 박도 못 토비 그러셔 버려.
As it says in the precious garland, if we were to try to count all the limited beings, they are without number, they're immeasurable. And so if we aim our motivation towards these immeasurable, innumerable, limited beings, beings with limited awareness or sentient beings, and have the wish to be able to help them, then the qualities and benefits that we will achieve from this motivation will be in accordance with its aim being so infinite. So it itself will be infinite.
나 심지어 타다게 체도 정주 되니로 깨인도 자네. 심지어 매는 거래. 나 랑게 별로유로 샤고야 요마래. 대원 대바도 동행 민두바 지인 신지나 대 탐자로 딱 먼저 동행에 타나잖아. 대화도 대화잖아. 삼별 로직 장투야도가. 신소아 베르 차이잖아. 가소래. 근데 싱글로마지이나? 아니 간다이니 뒤주 유리유리잖아. 로마 사말로 사르고 그랬신. 근데 러바이나? 로마 사겐 그 신유에서 찍더 니 소수 셰베 체니다. 신디 로마 사르고 디에서그리스 셰바면 와. 신지기 때문에 튼비서로 줄 거야. 봐. 딱 로마 디디 리베 참아 사르고 그랬신. 다 디처에 신 타다스 러윤도 신 메르 머르 루유로 마셔나야 대 탐자로게 로마데 지비 춘이인데 그 고도고도 지비 춘이인데 그 고도고도가 와다 셈제 메르 머르 루유도 마셔나야 대원도지 동행민들의 셈제인 천재라 다 대탐자라 이 동행에 자와지다 대화다 대바지 주로 자나 삼별로지 어떡할 수 뒤도도가 현소해 우리랑로지 캠도 자니
As far as developing altruistic motivation towards all sentient beings, there is no need that we identify each and every sentient beings individually, but just consider them that everything which desire happiness and desire to avoid suffering is a sentient being. Therefore, each and everything which possesses such quality is a sentient being, and I will work for just everything which possesses such quality. If we give an example, if we say that all the leaves of the trees will fall in the due time, we don't need to identify each and every leaf. We might give an example and say that in the same way that the leaves of this and that tree fell at a certain time, in due time all the leaves of all the tree will fall. So in the same way, when our motivation turns itself towards all sentient beings, there's a need to identify each and every sentient being individually, but just it's turning oneself to what or whoever it is which wants to avoid suffering and to achieve happiness.
다디 대단 아니 가다지 팔고 지나들라 봐다 오펜시브 봐다 오펜시브 지야 되기 뇨모 다 드네르베 탑시 숨지기 토네 뇨모 점이야 디 팔고 직체 뇨모 점 차례 팔고 다 뇨모 점이야 디 보도 리버 직체 다 one stage another stage 디 가레슬람나 다 뇨모 대 샤가 파자 봐 뇨모 대 샤가 파자 더동 셰자셰바나 바도 쥐어버려 세경기 집어 직시기도 와. 다 집어디 다 손하고 쳐 타예베 좋아도 제베 거네. 애는 돈이 또베 신라송지기 땡인지 무튼의 고민인데 애는 림베기 딘데기 니나 추베 저마디 장요 이 말이.
So in this offense that we are taking.
당연히 뒤질다. 뇽모디 좀 사서나 디민의 타바타바 쓰게 그랬다. 봐. 뇽모베 칭원을 좋아해.
When we've actually rid ourselves of all the disturbing attitudes, then we achieve what's known as a state of liberation. But this is just the first step in the offensive assault that we are taking. The first step is to get rid of our disturbing attitudes by applying method and wisdom. But once we've gotten rid of these disturbing attitudes and achieved a state of liberation, still there are the various potentials of these disturbing attitudes which are still present on the mind stream, and these are acting as something which prevent us from being able to be omniscient, to be able to know all things that can be known. And so it's necessary to apply a second stage offense against these potentials as well by continuing to over and over again meditate and build up further and further as a beneficial habit the wisdom or understanding with which we realize voidness or lack of true existence. And by doing that, then we'll be able to overcome all these potentials of these disturbing attitudes, all these mental obscurations, which cause things to appear in a discordant manner and thus prevent us from being able to know everything.
간다 님보 아니 신라송지기 띵인지 달라 아니 탑기 심베 시럽기 심베 탑체니 딘데게 탑시 송지기 타네 아니 방제 님보를 깨다디 태고 첨부 도디루다 디 말이.
And so we need to follow an offensive method then, which is one which is combining method and wisdom, one which is a combination of a serenely stilled and an exceptionally perceptive state of mind. We're following a path in which method and wisdom are combined in the sense that method is held within the context of wisdom and wisdom is maintained within the context of method. And to follow such a path is the type of path that's presented in general Mahayana, according to the sutras.
아야. 다 탑시 숨지 제단데 텔레서도 신. 다 탑시 뭐 소소 찍조수 찍송 더보 뭐인바. 로직니. 아니 가서를 그게 로직. 아니 로직니. 독체 아니 탑시 소소를 잡아마도 뭐 로직도 둘땡이지. 근데 그 탑시 뭐 예미치베 나저때 나라미 당나라미스는도 나가 습제샤돼요.
However, if we try to go more deep and to a more if we try to go to a more profound level of combining method and wisdom, then we don't just have a situation in which method is held within the context of wisdom and wisdom is held within the context of method, but rather what we want to do is to get the two of them together in one package. In other words, have the two be of one nature, which means that the two come together in one package, namely in one and the same mind. And although they still would have different names which can be ascribed to them, nevertheless, from the point of them being together in one mind, they are combined in one package in this way. So this is the
Dalai Lama slavne nga chadorwa. Dokche. Dokbe koneda. Dalai Lama dokorochi. Dalai Lama imbole dokorochi. Mimo imbe dokorochi. Toga. Gelon imbole dokorochi. Shatudwa. Mo mikorochi.
So if we use an example, I am a monk, I am also a Tibetan, I am also the Dalai Lama. All of these are different names which can be ascribed, however they're referring to the same package, to the same thing. And so this is what was referred to by things being together in one package, but there can be many different names ascribed, and so there are the differences in terms of the different names, but basically they are together in one package. So when we have method and wisdom together as one package in terms of one mind, then that is the actual method which is entered into in Tantra, and specifically in the highest level of Tantra, Anuttara Yoga. And when we have method and wisdom together in one package like this, as in Tantra, then this acts as a weapon which will allow us to get rid of the stains or the things that we're trying to get rid of much more quickly. It's something which has a great deal more power. And when we overcome these most subtle types of mental obscurations, the ones preventing us from being omniscient, from knowing all things, then we achieve the omniscient state of a Buddha, in which we've gotten rid of all the things that we need to rid ourselves of. Now we'll have a 15-minute break. Will they collect the questions?